So it's been a while, right? India Larry's Indian Chopper Project clone thing here. So we're back. We're going to be working on this, and I've got a box of parts here. I've got this fender laying here. We're going to go ahead. We're going to try and get this fender on the back. I got me the proper made in Taiwan taillight that Larry used, and I got here. I don't remember who sent this to me, but I had bought this from one of the guys off of Facebook or something, but it's an old single piston caliper PM Performance Machine brake caliper, and he was very nice and sent me all the rebuild stuff that's going to go along with it. Because, heck, I figured you could just get these, just call up an order. They don't even make these anymore, but this is what Larry used back in the mid-'80s, so that's what we got. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go after the back end of the bike this episode. I'd like to get that. I'm going to have to cut the skirt, a little bit of the skirt off the fender here. This is what I can get my hands on. This is what I paid for. It's what I'm going to use and work with. You know, we get the fender mounted. I'd like to make the sissy bar, get the brake caliper mounted on the bike, and the tail light, and all the stuff that I have on hand. Because right now, the filming of this right now is during our whole COVID virus scare globally, and probably some other planets in our solar system too, for all I know. But yeah, whew! So this is the stuff I have, and I can work with without having to break my social distancing or what have you. And it's been a while. I bought the stuff, I've collected it. This is the project we're working on, and yeah. So let's make this happen. But first. Anyway, you haven't seen this thing for a while. Let me get out of its way so you can see the bike. So you haven't seen this for a while. And the last time you saw it, I think it was October or November of 2019 that I had posted the video of me making the frame. And you saw the last, I thought it was 3 parts. And the last part, this is just sitting on the welding table. And so here we are. So I should probably reacquaint you with the project and walk you around the bike real quick and point some things out. All right, guys, I just want to give you like an overall of the bike, and it just points out some quick things. Some things I noticed from the old Iron Horse magazine that you've seen in the first 3 episodes. I got the little dice valve cap on the wheel. It's the same hub and wheel and everything that Larry had used. The front end from this bike is one of those Sheriani racing front ends that Hugh Mackey from 6th Street Specials in New York City, he had given me this to build the project because I was going to do something different. And he was like, you can't do that. You got to use the right front end. This is the same model front end that Larry had used. And I thank Hugh very, very much for being part of the project because Larry actually built this bike in the basement of 6th Street Specials in New York City on the Lower East Side. So it's nice to have the people that were around when Larry was building this bike, the real one, be part of this project too. I'm very honored for that. And one of the things I made was, he's got the cheap-ass headlight that every chopper guy runs. I made the same kind of style bracket. Larry had the same style fork stop setup. I have an extra bung here off of one tank, and I had bought one from Ted's. And I had gotten this gas tank at a swap meet. It's the same style tank, same gallonage, but it's got to have the other gas cap here. And Larry had cut it in half to make this side the oil reserve for the engine, the Indian engine. Now, the Indian engine's an actual 1952. Larry said in the Iron Horse magazine article he had a 52, but it was probably a 47, 48 that he tattooed the number on. This is an actual 52 with the kick out for the compensating sprocket on the primary right here. Now, I had gotten this motor and everything from Ted at Ted Cycle, V-Twins. Ted and Larry go way back when they were kids, and they grew up in the same area. So, it's very nice that, and the Magneto Ted had donated to this project too, for this bike. But it's very nice to have, like I said, Hugh Mackey from 6th Street Specials gave up the front end. Ted from Ted Cycles sold me this a whole bunch of Indian stuff, but this is what I needed, this 52 Chief 80 cubic inches for this project also. And also, you can't see it, but it's a whiz-bang setup of machining. The neck in this here, the neck stem that goes right here, this was done by Knucklehead Steve. Knucklehead Steve was one of the original crew when I worked with Indian Larry off of Delancey Street. I think it was not Steinway. Rivington. I think the address was 177 Rivington Street, just north of Delancey Street by the Williamsburg Bridge. Steve had machined up the neck for me, the neck stem, so it would all fit in the Harley Davidson bearings and everything. So again, like I say, all these people, you know, we were all friends and we all knew each other long before the television shows and all that. We were just guys trying to scrape enough money together to buy a hot dog, dirty water dog from the hot dog cart guy and you know, do bikes and stuff. So this is just a typical, this is not the same style of tire Larry used. I used what I had laying around. The same sprocket and everything. These are all, it's all used rim. I spray painted the hub. I think Larry's was chrome. And let me grab that brake caliper real quick over here out of my box. Just the housing and stuff. This here, and I'll point this out in the magazine later on, Larry had a knack for putting the tab off of the frame. And this other tab works off the sissy bar. So this will just be like probably right around this neck of the woods right here. So that's where that'll sit. But this is the bike. This is how, as far as I've gotten with the project. And we're going to pick it up from here and keep going. And like I had said, you know, the other people involved in the project, you know, Hugh Mackey from 6th Street Specials, Knucklehead Steve, Ted Doring from V-Twin Cycles so far. I'm sure, like, no matter, you know, no matter what it's made out of, I would like to have the seat done by Paul Cox, because he was Larry's right-hand man from beginning to end. And I don't know, it's just very special to me that all these guys that I know, and Larry knew at the time, and they were good friends with Larry, are all part of this project also. So it's not just for me, it's very special for all of us. So this is the bike that gave him the name Indian Larry. Before this, when he had a Sportster, he was Sportster Larry. You know, I used to be Fritz the Painter years ago. So, you know, that just, you know, those are the tags you got, I guess. And it still works like that. And you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, let's talk more work, right? So what are we going to do? I don't know. I got to pick up the magazine. I got to kind of dig through it. Let me grab it quick. All right, guys. Now, one thing I noticed while looking at some pictures of Larry's bike in the old issue 70 of Iron Horse magazine was that I think I messed up. So not exactly enthusiastic about it, but I'm going to have to fix a problem, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it, get it done, get it over with, and we can get back on track. So I'm going to show you that, hey, I'm like everybody else. You can make mistakes. Now, I didn't have a motor or anything when I built the frame. I built the frame probably about 3 years before I actually posted it on YouTube. When I first got involved in YouTube, I started taking a lot of the stuff I was going to save for making a DVD and editing it for YouTube itself. So, I'm just noticing this now, and the fender here, when I look at it, first off, I got too much real estate between the fender and the tire, if you can see that. Larry has it pretty tight like that. And I had just put this bar in on this bike because I needed something there to keep the rails separated. And I had gone by the angle of the Harley Davidson axle plates back here and how everything would line up this way. I'm thinking I'm about 2, maybe 2.5 inches too long. So I'm going to have to cut this here on this lower leg, make a slug and move this forward, and this is going to end up like this. If I do that, then these are going to move forward and end up like that. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and, I don't know, make a new forward piece for this so I can just slug it once and I don't have to heat and bend anything. I'm going to figure it out. So the very tip of the fender comes, I'll show you the pictures I've got so you can see on this one here how close that comes to the generator. And there's another picture in the back here that's pretty good. Well, you can see on this one also, there's some air between the generator and the fender tip. There was another photo that was pretty good. Right in the back here, right there. And in this one here, you can see how close the tip of the fender is to the generator. Now we know the generator is going to be on the outside of this bracket here. And even where I have this crossbar, and if I put this right there, it should probably still be, I'm guessing, about 1 inch closer, give or take, right? And right now I'm going to say it's probably at about 3 inches. So I wouldn't mind seeing that fender be about, let's say, 2 inches. So that means I got to move this forward. Let me see. I got 6 inches, so maybe I need to move it forward 3 inches. That's right, I took a guess, 2.5, 3 inches. So that's what we got to do. So before I go ahead and start playing with the fender and making anything else happen, I think what I'm going to do is disassemble the bike and drag my welding table out here and set the bike frame up on the table so I can cut it. And I've got to make the table nice and level. And I've got the frame on the table level and tack welded in place. Then I can go ahead and shimmy this stuff around, move it forward. And hey, shit happens, right? So this is where we are. This is where it's at. And to get where we want to be, this is what we got to do. So let's just do it, shall we? Alright guys, obviously I didn't go for disassembling the whole bike. Let me turn this off. Hey, I'm a coffee house slacker. I opted for the easy way out. So a couple of these 1x1 steel tubes, square tubes, and it gets the frame up off the table enough to clear the engine. I still got about 3/8 of an inch to spare underneath of the engine cases. And tack weld the frame to the tubing, tack weld the tubing to the frame, to the table rather, and I've already got it from side to side. It's centered. You've seen me build the frame. I got my center line on the table, so I should be good to go. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to just kind of mess around with this a little bit. And you know, we don't need the wheel because we know we want the fender just so far away from this generator bracket. And that's what I'm going to mess with now. I'm going to do some math, do some calculations, try and get the space shuttle to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, and then we'll come on back and I guess we'll start making sparks and cutting. What can I say? Miscalculations, right? So, hey, we got a weld on hardtail. How about that? So I guess I'm going to go ahead and come back at this. It's kind of late for me tonight. I'm going to go inside, watch a little Star Trek. But I'll try and give you an idea. Like I said, these aren't going to line up. I'll try and get the camera on the other side so you can see that, and just give you a quick view of how I got to take care of this and the conundrum that this top bar is going to be. Like I said, I think I'm just going to cut some of this off and just start from the get-go, and I'll slug it back here somewhere. I'll move the camera on the other side so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me just, for my own head, mark off, 2 3/4 inches, 3 inches, something like that. And so I know about where it's going to have to be. And I'm hoping this will slide underneath the frame, at least to some, so I can show you. And yeah, I'm hitting some framework under that. If I try it on this side. If I go further over, I can show you. So I got to come up this far, okay? That's about where my 2 3/4 meets. And you can see how far down that drops. So this is going to be its own little conundrum of something. So how are we going to fix it? I don't know. The thing that would make it look the cleanest is probably to modify the original factory gusset and just give that a little slice, grind it out, and tweak it up. Because the further back I go here, the less I'll have to do metal work. And I can just weld that all back together. And that'll bring this up like that. And I can bring these down a little bit. They can kind of come. You've seen original Harley frames. You know what they look like. So that's probably more right where I got to be. And that's going to be up and down wise about, and these are all guesstimates now. Oh, I'm going to say, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, somewhere in there. But you can see like where this crossbar is going to be now, we'll put my fender right where it's got to be. So it's just a matter of, I don't know, did I screw up? Well, what I did was, because these pipes were the way they were and they flew, the fluid natural line was easy to go with. So that's what I went with. But here we are, right? So we'll take care of this. Won't be a big deal. And we'll get right back to our regular scheduled program. All right, guys, the ID of my tubes here is 7/8 of an inch. So at one time, I cut these down here, where when I had made this, I had slugged it right to the original Indian frame section. So when I cut this to 2 3/4 inches back, the slug that's in there will be gone, so no worries there. But I still have a slug in here that I rosette welded. So I got a 7/8 drill. I'm going to open that up and clean it out. When I get that done, we're going to go ahead and make some new slugs, and this should just slide right on with the 2 3/4 inches cut off right where it's got to be, and then we'll figure this mess out. mushroomed that over a little bit. So you may want to go in there with a grinder and try and clean that up the best we can. Any kind of grinder right now. Give it a test. Okay, one of the things I'm finding out is I had tack welded these 1x1s, excuse me, to keep this from going boing, you know. So, but it did off the back of the frame have to taper out a little bit, you know, for the chain and everything. So I'm finding that I need a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to have to cut this weld, I think, to bring this side in. Yep, that's going to have to be the nature of the business today. Let me get my tools and do this. All right. There we go. Just that little bit. It's going to get a bit there. There we go. Not too shabby. And them slugs just do the alignment for you. But we do have some up and down tweak. And we have our, what do I do with it? Our extra piece of 1x1. We're going to slide it right underneath the back legs here. To make sure same height, clean through. All right, not too shabby. Now we just got to make sure that we're centered, because this might be like a little, like, kind of something like that. Well, gang, nobody said this was going to be easy. I had a discrepancy in the measurement trying to get this thing centered from side to side, and then I noticed my axle plates. Let me get over here so you can see what I'm saying. My axle plates, I can get the one on the primary side sitting just right, but the one on this side was a little wanky, you know? And I could see my 1x1s I put across the bottom were kind of torquing when they were coming up, and that's because my like I said, on the chain side of the bike, I had the frame rail kind of doing one of these to kick itself out to make room for the chain, like on a Harley does on the primary side. Well, as I went in and I took that 2 3/4 inches out and I narrowed that, it put on, remember how to cut that 1x1, it cut the tension in. So hey, whatever I'm going to say, I had to cut it all apart. I got to cut apart right here, and I figured I got these 2x2s. I can make sure it's level, straight up and down, and I'll take some measurements and stuff, make sure everything's where it's got to be, and make sure I kick this side over a little bit. And even if you're looking in the chain axle plates like this, I'm just going to heat it and bring it back so it's straight and parallel, so I know I have the room for the chain to run. If you would have done it right the first time. But you see, the thing is, when I welded this frame together, I didn't have a motor or tranny or anything, and I was all gung-ho. I did a nice job with the frame. The frame was great. And I should have probably just left it and ran it the way it was. But being OCD, I want that fender to fall right where Larry had it on his Indian. You know, I'm taking the hard road to do the right thing. That's all there is to it. So let's just keep going. All right, guys, now I'm just making sure I've got my axle plates at the same height this way, you know. I grab this old threaded rod, this will slip through the sidecar loops, the gussets in the castings for the sidecar, and I can grab myself some measurements from there with the threaded rod and see how I am. We're doing good. So one thing I want to show you is I did have to, when I was doing this before, I kind of heated this stuff up and I bent the axle plate to make it flush with the other side. And this time, because I had it all off and everything, I had done some slicing and dicing on this lower tube right here. So on this side, I cut the outside so I could bend it out, and I cut the inside about 2 inches further up so I could bend it back in. And I added a piece of 1/4 inch plate steel here so it'll sit flush. And that gives me enough room and everything to clear for the sprocket. I've been sitting in here and I got a straight edge up against the chain, measuring it back here, measuring my spacers, and you get the gist of it. So yeah, while I was here, it made my life a little bit easier. These top tubes, I can heat them and bend them in however I've got to. That's not going to really matter. But I needed to kick this lower leg over just a little bit so the chain doesn't hit it right over and in here. Alright guys, obviously I'm welding, and had to run out quick and buy a bottle of argon or we wouldn't be doing this. So I took the other side off and I took that crossbar out and I cleaned this up. Figured I would do that while I had the chance. Well, this was, you know, free from the whole bike frame. So I wanted to go in here and show you with the camera that little kick out I made. So let me grab that moving on over. I really don't know how good this is going to show up for you, but you can see here, on this side I put that slice, and then I bent this out this way, and I put a slice on the inside, and I bent it back again. So you can see that slight little bit of a dog leg. I can't really get the camera in there that great to show it to you. But that's what we got, and that should give me just enough clearance to clear the chain. And I hope I don't have any problems later, but I think it'll be fine. And right here I got as well, I got my slug in here and my 2 spots for rosette welds on the back side. So I'm going to go ahead and tack weld some of this up. I got the other side I'm going to tack up, and we'll come on back. Alright gang, you can see I made this. So I heated this up and I gave it the old benderino. I made a jig here. And what I did was I took my cardboard template. Look, I dropped it. So I got my cardboard template, an old UPS shipping envelope, and I made that little curve there. It's a little bit more graceful than that really sharp curve I made with the muffler bender. So that's what I've got. And you can see she comes up pretty swell, or at least as close as it can be. And a little off at the top, and I'll tell you why that is. That's because of my bend here. So this I took off my knucklehead frame, and because I left these here, that's not as nice of a curve as my knucklehead frame. So I welded this to the table, so I'm going to have to put this down and show it to you. And I'll show you when I make the other one, you'll see me do it. Let me grab the camera here. So this here is the jig I made. It's a piece of scrap steel. It's 3/16 steel, and I welded it right to the table. It's not going anywhere. And you can see I used it to make something else down the road here. So all I did was I put this pipe in here like so, and I welded the end so she wouldn't move on me. And, you know, I heated it up, and as I was heating it, I was leaning on it, giving it the old heave-ho. And she, you know, she comes right up against it. Now this here is 3/8 bar stock. Well, that's really hot. And I welded that to this plate steel. So that gives me my shape. And I tweaked the end just to get it to fit nice, and I'll show you that. So now I can really get some movement out of this by heating up the casting down here. And I can tweak this in and out that little bit. So you'll probably never notice the one side is a 1/4 inch over. With this here now, I set it up so I can cut each end a little bit and keep moving it in. And when I get it in, she'll be just nice. So that before, that bend was like right there, it would really kind of cut into your thighs a little bit. So I wanted that more of a graceful curve. And I did, even the bend down here is a little sharp. Larry's is a little bit more graceful. It's because he used the Harley rear section. And I made all this by myself. So that bend I can live with. This cutting into my thighs, nah, that's not going to get it. So yeah, just like that. And if I got to heat this and tweak that in a little bit, we'll do that. But you can see, this is going to line up just fine. It's going to look nice. Now we'll just hold it here and let it cool off in this position. So I guess right about now would be good for an edit fade. All right, now I got these top bars just setting here. And what I'm going to do is just on the side, it's going to be real easy to screw this up just doing it by eye. So I'd rather just cut a little at a time. But I can tell that right about here is when I'm going to make my cut on this pipe. And it may be a little too much, so I'll bring it over to the belt sander and I'll shave it back. I'll get that to fall just right. And these pipes are still going to meet kind of like this. So this one will move. So I'm going to have to heat that bottom one up, bring it up. And I may want to put the slug in this top pipe and tack weld it and window this bottom piece so it'll just set right. I can clamp it together and get some tack welds on the bottom. That's what I'm thinking as I'm going along. All right, that's our first cut. Let's give it a try and see what she looks like. Well, I guess I gotta go a little more, huh? Maybe 3/16 of an inch. So I'll be right back. All right, attempt number 2. Now you see that that's just gonna drop down and be like that. And that's not the look we want. And I hope that does it show good on the camera. Maybe I should bring that camera around over here. How does that look? You guys see that good now? So that's obviously not right. I want that pipe to be about there. So I'm going to have to heat this up right around the gusset area on the casting and bring this up till they both sit flush. It may be a little this way or a little that way. We're going to have to find out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this pipe and I'm going to bevel the edges like I did here. I'm going to drill my holes for my rosette welds. And I'll probably put a slug in this one and tack weld it. Like I said, this way, when I set this up, I can have it, that slug sticking out. Where I got a slug here somewhere. Here we go. This one's too small. Actually, I got slag in there. I can't get it in. But, you know, like that, well, you gotta do it this way so you can get a good visual. When I drop it down, it'll lay right in there. So all I have to do is open this up and make that window. And I did that over here on these pieces and stuff, I believe. This one down here, if you watch the first 3 episodes. So that's what we're going to do. Let me get these cleaned up. I'll have to window this, cut it open. Let me get all that work done and out of the way, and we'll be right back. All right, so I got my little spacers made. My spacers, my slugs. Like, what was that guy's name from Willy Wonka? Slugsworth. They got my little Slugsworth made. And there you go, they fit pretty swell. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this to the window now. I've got this side just kind of sitting there, and let's put this side together and see what we get. Not too shabby, huh? All right, so what we're going to have to do now is, I guess, heat this up and get these both to come up to the same straight length. And probably the best way to do that is to C-clamp it or what have you. But for right now, I'm going to heat it and see what I can't do to get this up to where it's got to be. That's not looking so bad. If we can get that slug to slide into that pipe, we know we're straight. Let's give that a try. Just vibrating it. It slips right in. Matter of fact, I'll put a little magic marker mark there so you can see. So I'd say we got a nice lined up fit right there. What we got to do now is take our little window piece, you see, and that just sits right on top of that. Oh, it goes the other way. Just like so. And we just weld that bad boy all up. And that's the strongest kryptonite right there. All right, guys, I've got these spots where I had those slugs. And I did as much welding as I could, like I had said, and I ground that all down. And I got my crush tube in here, and it's really nice. I can move it up and down quite easily so it doesn't spread this apart too much. And it's also going to keep it from coming in. I haven't taken it off these two pieces of square tubing yet, so we're going to have to see. And I've got these plates in here. They're just welded, tack welded in as good as I can get them without having to stand on the table and operate the pedal for my TIG welder. So yeah, that's it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this bike off the table, remove these pieces of square tubing, and slide this bad boy back so I can get the rear wheel in and set it all up like I had said previously. So I'm going to get on that, and we're going to build a motorcycle. Alright guys, I'm ready to get this wheel back in the bike. And I got my chain on, which is going to be extra sloppy, seeing as how I took 2 3/4 inches out of this thing. That's going to make it, what, 5 1/2, 5 something inches of extra chain I've got in length I got to get rid of. And because I did a better job on this, you know, the second time around. It's like doing your homework twice, right? And I kicked this whole plate over the 1/4 inch. Well, now my 1/2 inch wheel spacer, well, I got to go make a new one. It's got to be 3/4 inch and not a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to have to go in the back of the lathe, get a piece of scrap steel, yada, 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 and machine that up. And I still have this bar loose sitting here. So once I get the wheel in, I get my chain taken care of, I get this all adjusted, I'll set the fender on here, and then I'm going to find out where this has got to be so we can be really good. And one thing I got to tell you in the interim, I'm back. I'm back. You don't know what I'm talking about because it's only been a few seconds for you, but it's been a whole weekend for me. The camera fell over. It just went boo, clunk, and that's it. Trash it. It wouldn't focus. The lens had a little crack in it. And I was just like, oh man. Because, like, I don't know about the rest of you guys during this whole COVID virus thing right now, but Uncle Fritzy here, I'm out of work for 5 weeks. So that extra capital to just, like, you know, spend on you know, gummy bears and a couple of yoo-hoos, it just isn't there. I got to worry about keeping the electric on and stuff, you know, in the garage here, so I can keep, you know, if I'm going to be home quarantined, right? Aren't I going to be in the garage building something? Right. So, yeah, but I want to say thank you to all my Patreon members out there because I dipped into that money to have my wife went online and she found a refurbished camera, same one as what I've had, and but you know, without a broken lens. But I had to pony up to buy that, and I paid the extra expedited shipping so I could keep filming this, because without the camera, you know, I got to stop filming the Beatnik Bandit clone and Indian Larry project here. So yeah, that's the deal. I had to pay like a cord charge too, because I want my old camera, because they're going to refurbish that one and sell it to another idiot like me that yanks on his TIG welding line and knocks his camera over. I'm sure there's other guys out there like that. So, yeah, so a big thank you very much to my Patreon members out there, because you're the guys keeping this going. So, I just wanted to, you know, to give you a good suspender slap, and thank you very much. You're keeping these episodes alive. All right, so enough of that. I got to make a wheel spacer, so let me go knock that out quick so I can pick up that heavy wheel and test fit it again. All right, gang. So this is the spacer I had, and this is the one I just made. You can see the difference. So let's put this bad boy in and see what we got. And that looks good, man. All right, so what I gotta do now is get my nuts and stuff on the other side. So I just gotta get this thing centered up and shorten that chain and then adjust it back. And we should be good to go. All right, I think that's good. I had to take a couple links out. I added some links to begin with, 3 3/4 inches long, right? Then I took this many out from the stock length chain. So, what can I say? It looks right. It looks good. I got the bar right there. Let's grab that fender. And we're basically back to square one right now, right? Finally, after how much time? And a broken camera. So I'm thinking that looked good. And these fenders, when they make them, this kind of goes flat right here. So I'm going to end up cutting the fender more on the curve. That's probably why Larry did what he did. Because it doesn't, like, you know, if you do this, it'll look like too much air in the back. And you want to get it positioned just right. So I'm thinking if this fender was like right here, you can see I got just that right amount of material here. I'll get the camera in where you can see that. Alright, so with the fender up against my crossbar here, like I said, I got like a thumb's worth right there. And I think that's perfect. I'm not going to go ahead and weld this in yet. I'm going to cut the fender down to the size I want. And I'll get that to sit just where I want it. Although, let's be sure. Let's go take a look at that magazine real quick. Alright guys, so these are the pictures of the magazine. I got nothing over here. That goes into a story. And it's just these couple pages that I have to look at. And that's it. So you can see here, I'll zoom in on these. That's pretty good. You can tell how far away the fender is. And I think these two are probably the best. I can just see it here and right here. I'll zoom the camera in now and I'll show you those couple pictures. Now this is as close as I can get the camera and have it still focused. But you can see like where the tire is in respect to the generator. Let me flip these pages now. And on this one here, try and get the glare out of that. Like I say, you can see right here, you know, I mean, this is looking up, the bike's on an angle, but you can see how close it is, you know, respectively. And in this picture here, probably the best one I can have, where are we? Right there to judge. As you can see at the tip of the fender, it's just underneath by an inch, maybe an inch and a half, right to the generator bracket. That's how close we are right there. All right, so all that being said, I think, like I say, if you look at this fender, you can tell it has a nice curve right here, you know? Where are you? There you are. It's got that curve, then she kind of runs flat. So I need to shorten it up to really get a good idea. But if this was right here, like just like that, and I mean, it's tough to do this with only two hands. If I was an octopus, this would be a lot easier. But you know, if this was just like so, right here, I mean that amount of width right there, I think that's right where this is. And so you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to move this maybe up a little bit, so when I make bungs to put in here that have a little bit of a shoulder on them, I'll compensate for that. I'm going to go ahead and tack weld this in, and that's that. And we'll see what we got. And I gotta be honest. I think at this point in the game right now, after the having to cut the rear section off and put it back on, heck, there's a whole episode right here. So I want to keep going and keep filming, but I don't want to make an episode that's like 3 hours long. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to wrap this up with you guys. And we're back to square one, right? And we cut the whole back end of the bike off and got it all welded back on, made a new crossbar, had to shorten the chain, make a new spacer, tweedledee, tweedledum, la-di-dee, la-di-doo. It's just how it is. But I will say that I'm a lot happier with this bar in the bike that I kicked it over, and my clearance is a lot better. And I can't complain. I'm kind of happy I went back and redid a lot of this. So that's it. I think that's my wife now, probably calling me for lunch. Yep. So let me turn that off. I think we'll just wrap this up right now for an episode. This just goes to show you that, hey, I make mistakes too like everybody else, but you know, I manned up and I took care of it. It wasn't really so much of a bad mistake, but I probably could have left it the way it was and rode the bike around, but to me, in my mind, my OCD and everything, that fender not being that right width from this generator bracket, that was really messing with me, man. Losing sleep at night over that. So I'm glad I went ahead and redid this. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead, I'll get this bar welded in, and next episode, we'll go ahead and we'll do what we originally planned to do this episode, and get the rear fender set up, the sissy bar, and the brake caliper and whatnot. Thanks again for watching, guys. Don't forget, please hit that button right down there. And subscribe. Is it over there? No, it's over there, right? Is it over here? Is it over there? It's over there. It's a red button. It says subscribe. I think it's over here. Here it is. And yeah, just tap that button. It'll be a big help. And if you could find it in your heart, please become a Patreon member, or maybe just pick up one of those cool coffee cups or a T-shirt from my store, so I can build up for another new camera. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next episode. Motherfucker.